This is J. Krishnamurti's first public question and answer meeting in Madras, 1982-83.
There are a lot of questions here which I haven't seen. It's good to ask questions. And from whom do you expect the answer? Is the answer more important than the question? If the question, and to put the question rightly, also requires an art. When you have put the question, are you putting it to somebody or to yourself? And if the question is important, does the answer lie in the question or away from the question? I hope we are communicating with each other. Does the answer lie or contain or hold in the question itself and not away from it? So in answering some of these questions, we're going to examine the question, not try to find the answer to it. Because in the examination of that question, the answer itself lies or revealed in the examination of that question. I hope this is clear, that you and I are going to examine the question, see the nature of the question, what the significance of that question, and in the understanding of that question, the answer is revealed in the question. Is this? Are we together in this? I hope. In the first talk, you said that thought is responsible for all our problems. And you also said that thought has failed to resolve those conflicts. And you raised a question: if there is any other instrument to resolve our conflicts. In the first talk, you said that thought is responsible for all our problems. And you also said that thought has failed to resolve those problems. And you raised the question, if there is any other instrument to resolve our conflicts, please explain. Do we all agree or see the truth that thought throughout the world has brought about a great technological advancement whose future is incalculable, and that thought has created the wars, the destruction of human beings? Thought has created all the religious edifices and the content of those edifices. Thought has created all this. Are we all together on this point? Are we? Would you agree to that? Or you believe that thought is not responsible for the content of your temples, the churches, and the mosques. What's your reaction to it? Please, if you would kindly talk it over with the speaker. You understand what I've said? That thought, which is the act of thinking, is responsible for all the wars in the world, for the national divisions of the world. That thought has created the gods which we worship, all the rituals, or the whole hierarchical outlook of religious structure. Would you agree to all that? Not just intellectually agree, that has no meaning. Do we see this? What's the difficulty? Would you kindly talk it over with me? Or do you think the gods, the various saviors, are not the result of actual thinking? No. How
The significance which the thought indicates is not thought. Significance is not the thought.
the gentleman says significance of thought is not thought. When we use the word significance, which means the meaning, right, sir? The meaning which thought conveys. Thought cannot be separated from its significance, can it? Or significance, the meaning, is contained in the thought. I think that, suppose I think that India is the most spiritual country, and I think about it, surely it is thought that has given the significance that India is the most extraordinary religious country. Right? What's the difficulty, sir? So, I'm sure you don't agree with this because, for a very obvious reason, that the things that we worship in the temples and so on are some miraculous happening, or something that is brought about through some kind of divine action. That's why we rather hesitate to accept or see the fact that thought has been responsible for all this. Right? What? What's up? We're going to find out. But that requires a great deal of inquiry and freedom, otherwise you cannot find out. One has to put aside all that which is false. Right? How can one find anything new if we are attached to old traditions which are dead, to some belief that we hold dear, to some ideal we think is necessary? If we hold on to all those, there is no freedom for inquiry, right? So a good scientist, in his research, first he has the knowledge of other people who have researched, has accumulated, and then he must set aside all that to find something new. Otherwise, he's not a top scientist, he's merely a machine repeating. Right? Would you agree to that? What's that? What generates thought? What do you think generates thought? What is the beginning of thought? What?
Thought is the result of something happening. Observation.
Observation.
Thought is the result of something happening. That's what it says.
Thought is the result of something happening. The happening is, suppose I have a motor accident and I've broken my leg, and that is an experience which is stored in the brain, right, sir? An experience stored in the brain, and that experience is knowledge of that accident, and from that accumulated knowledge of that accident, the memory, and then from that memory, there is thought that I had an accident which was very painful. It is the whole movement of experience, knowledge, memory, and thought. That's the origin of thinking. Not the accident and then thought. The whole accident took place because I was driving badly. Is it what? Or somebody ran into me. What's the difficulty in this? I'm afraid I haven't. He says, somebody heard. Would you kindly repeat it?
You say that the discovery or the findings of the previous scientists have to be set aside for a scientist to discover something new.
Obviously.
Or has he to have the base of the previous scientist's knowledge and experience before he is able to find something new?
Of course, sir. If I am a physicist, I study from college, from school, college, university, and have accumulated a great deal of knowledge about physics, matter, the inquiry into matter, and if I want to discover something new, I must put aside all that which I have known. So have you ever considered how the jet, the jet aeroplane come into being? It didn't just happen. The previous engineers who constructed the piston engine had gathered a lot of information and had put that aside, said this isn't good enough. And they were looking, waiting, searching, and suddenly somebody discovered the jet. But we don't want to do that. One wonders whether one likes to live in this conditioned brain with all its problems. You follow and accept it and carry on. So, the speaker said at the first talk, that all the activities of thought, both important and important, dangerous and search for safety, security, are all the movements of thought. It is so obvious. I don't know why we hesitate about this matter. Right, sir? Can we go on from there? No. It's very difficult for us to accept a fact or a truth when we are attached to our own particular concepts. If you would kindly, for this morning at least, put aside all your once conclusions, beliefs, and ideals and look at something different. After all, when you have a refrigerator in your house, if you are rich enough or well-to-do, you have moved away from the old, haven't you? But in the same way, would you kindly move away from the old and see what happens? You may not like it, it may disturb your life, but you can go back to it. What's that? Of course there is fear. That's why you're all hesitant. So obvious. If you are guaranteed that whatever the new instrument is, and you haven't to do anything, you would grab at it very quickly. But unfortunately, we are so frightened of anything new, right? Because it's very disturbing. You have to scrap all the piston engines. You have to invest a great deal of money in something new. And that's what's called material progress, which you are doing. You're not frightened of having a new refrigerator or a new washing machine or a new car. But one is really frightened to let the old go, which indicates that one's brain is functioning mechanically. Right, sir? I have known this, I'm going to stick to it, and guarantee me something, if there is new, that I will also be safe. You understand? When you invest money, perhaps some of you know, when you invest money in a stock, there is always fear that it might not succeed, but you invest it, right? Because there is the reward behind it. Here there is no reward. That's what your trouble is. Here there is no reward because it requires clear thinking, clear, objective, non-personal observation. Right, sir?
So, in light of the realization that religion is a form of catharsis for those who are psychologically insecure, how would you explain the origin of our first thought?
Origin of first thought.
Yes.
Do you want my explanation?
Very much so.
What for? I'll explain, but what for? What, sir?
Sir, for a thought to observe itself.
What, sir?
For the thought to observe itself. For the thought to observe itself.
Yeah. Have you ever done that?
I'd like to try it.
You're all so crazy. You won't do anything original for yourself. You see, that means we're so authority bound, so traditional, so mechanical. And you don't see the mechanical process of thought. All right, sir, let's go back to it. The questioner says, thought has created the problems like war, like various forms of division between people, and thought then, having created the problem, then thought tries to find the answer to the problem, right? Which is all, right, sir? Would you agree to that? Would you agree to that? I have created a problem between myself and my wife. We have constant rows, disputes, quarrels. They arise because I want something and she wants something else. Or she tells me what to do, which I don't want to do. You understand? This constant division. Now, has thought created the problem between me and my wife? I'm not married, fortunately. And I'm asking you, has thought created the problem? This quarrel between me and my wife. Would you kindly answer this? Huh? Obvious, isn't it? No? But golly, you're the most extraordinary people, all right. You refuse to see something obvious and acknowledge it. Thought has created the problem, quarreling with my wife, and then thought says, I'm going to try and resolve the problems, right? First created the problem, then it tries to solve the problem. You have it in this country politically, haven't you? It's all such a mess here, no? Even that you won't acknowledge. All right, so it's up to you. Huh? Yes, sir, it's collective thought. Do you understand when you said, sir, if I may most respectfully ask, do you understand when you said what the implication of that is? If it is, thought is collective, then your thinking is collective, and therefore you are part of the collective. Right? So you are not an individual. Look, sir, thought has created the problem. I'm a Jew, you are an Arab, right? Could you look at that, what is happening in the Middle East? I am a Jew, you are an Arab. I am a Jew because for the last 3,000 to 4,000 years I have been programmed, right? I have been told from childhood and do various activities of childhood that I am a Jew, right? That is repeated to me all day after day, day after day. So my brain is conditioned to the acceptance that I am a Jew, right? And the other fellow across the border, which may be very near, he's been also told that he's an Arab, a Palestinian Arab. He's been repeated that for the last 1400 years, and he repeats that, right? Right, sirs? Now, has not thought created the Jew? Huh? And the Arab? Has not thought created that you're a Hindu? Huh? You accept that? If you accept that, then thought is responsible for the division between the Arab and the Jew, between the Hindu and the Muslim, right? And thought then, because of this division, brings about conflict, right? Pakistan and India. Right, sir? Which is, that division has brought about war. So thought is responsible for war, right? And then thought says, I must solve this problem. We must seek peace. But I still remain a Jew, and you still remain an Arab. No? What's that?
Nobler thought from within me can solve my baser thoughts within me. That's what he says.
I don't understand.
Nobler thought.
Huh?
A nobler thought can end the baser thought.
I see. So there is a noble thought and ignoble thought, right? But it's still thought. Right, sir? It is still thought. You may think what I say may be ignoble, and you may be noble. But the division between what is noble and what is ignoble is created by thought. That's all. No?
Besides memory and experience, cannot thought arise spontaneously?
The gentleman asked, cannot thought and experience arise spontaneously? No, he didn't say that. I didn't hear properly.
Besides thoughts arising out of memory and experience, cannot thought arise spontaneously?
How? Yeah, I see. Thought arises from experience, knowledge, memory. Right, sir? And you're asking, cannot thought arise spontaneously without knowledge? Yes, that's right, sir. That's right. Can thought arise spontaneously without knowledge, without experience and memory? That's the question, sir. Now, what do you mean by spontaneity?
So spontaneity means without having its base in the past memory.
Yes, sir. What I'm asking, yes, sir, I'm asking, if you'll forgive me, I'm asking, what do you mean by the word spontaneous?
Spontaneity means having its own origin.
Sir, to be spontaneous.
Instantly having its own origin.
No, sir, the word, the meaning of the word means something you do spontaneously, you do it without thought, right? Which means you do something from freedom, right? Are you free to do something freely? If I may ask a question, sir.
So we may try.
You can't try freedom. Either you are free or not free. You can't say, I will try to become free. You see, if you're really interested in all this, would you kindly listen first? The speaker has said over and over again that thought is the result of experience, knowledge, memory stored in the brain, and from that memory, thought arises. If I have no knowledge, no experience, no memory, what am I? I'm in a state of amnesia, right? You know that word amnesia means blank, right? Right, sir? Unless one has an accident or some kind of disease in the brain, there is no, human beings are not all, have not all amnesia. That would be terrible, wouldn't it? So please listen, find out, sir, for yourself whether thought is not responsible for all our miseries, and also thought is responsible for this extraordinary free-flowing technology. Right? Would you agree to that? Huh?
But to find out this, shouldn't one think?
People?
To find out this, shouldn't one think?
To find
The
out?
question that you posed now,
To find out this, should we not think?
Should we not?
Think.
Yes. Think. All right, let's think. Let's think. Now, wait a minute. Let's think. Right? Will you think with me? Or,
they're using thought as an instrument.
what?
It is said that thought is not the instrument to solve our problems.
I have said it. The speaker has said it.
Yes,
You may not believe it.
yes, I may not believe it, but then to find out the alternative instrument, shouldn't I think what the alternative instrument
I'm going to point out, lady, I'm going to do it presently. But first, if you don't mind my telling most respectfully, that we must think first, right? Right? Do we think? Or repeat? Is repetition thinking? Right? I have been trained as an engineer, and I repeat, right? So, are we aware that our brains are mechanical now? You see, now there comes our difficulty, right? Would you agree to that? That our brains now, the educated brains and the uneducated brains, have become mechanical. Right? Would you agree to that? Are we aware that your brain, your actions are mechanical? If you admit our brains are mechanical, then your life is mechanical. No? Right? You are unwilling to admit that. Yes, that's just it.
Sir, when we come to the conclusion that thought is responsible for all our miseries,
It's not a conclusion, it's a fact.
either it's a fact,
You know,
or
sir,
kind of limited knowledge, the knowledge we can get is limited. So it's also a kind of knowledge.
Sir, the speaker has said knowledge is limited, right?
Yes, limited.
Are you aware the knowledge is limited?
No, according to you. So when we say that thought is responsible,
Sir, just a minute, if you don't mind. Are you merely accepting what the speaker says, or have you investigated for yourself that knowledge, all knowledge, right? Not a particular subject, all knowledge. The scientific knowledge, the technological knowledge, the knowledge of books, the knowledge of your experience, all knowledge is limited.
yeah, if it is limited means this also the kind of knowledge which is limited. So we can't say.
Well, I don't quite understand this.
No, we accept that knowledge is limited.
I don't accept it, so it's a fact.
Okay, it's a fact.
Oh, not okay, it's a fact. It's most extraordinary. Sir, when you have pain, I hope you haven't, when you have pain, you don't acknowledge that you have pain, you have pain. Right, sir? Right, sir? Now, do we see the fact that thought born of knowledge is always limited? Right, sir? Can we go on from there? That knowledge is limited. Otherwise, there would be no technological advancement. If it's limited, you stop. But they're breaking through. You understand? Trying to find more and more and more. But whatever they find is always limited because there is something more. Right? Technologically. Agree to that, sir? So, as knowledge is limited, thinking, which is born of knowledge, must always be limited. Right? Would you agree to that? This is logical. So what are you? So, what is limited must inevitably create problems. Right? Would you agree to that? Look, sir, I am a Jew. You are a Hindu, or a Muslim, or Arab. Same thing, Islamic world. The division has taken place by thought, right, sir? Thought has brought this division because thought itself is limited, right? So, where there is a division, there is bound to be limitation, right? Where there is limitation, there must be conflict. I'm a Jew, you are an Arab, right? This is difficult. All right, sir? I am saying, put it differently, where there is division, Jew, Hindu, Arab, where there is a division, there must be conflict.
There can be, without conflict, there can be division.
Oh, can there be?
Division without any.
We just a minute, sir, look into it. The Arab and the Jew. The Arab says, God is with me, and different kind of God is with the Jew, which is created by thought. Right? My God. Let's go into it again. Would you acknowledge or see the fact for yourself without without the speaker influencing you, that thought is limited? It can imagine the limitless, but is still the born of thought. Right? Now, thought has divided the world into Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, right? So where there is division, there must be conflict. Wait a minute, I'll bring it much nearer. Is there not division between you and your wife or your husband? Right? Would you acknowledge? There is, sir? So, where there is division, there must be conflict, isn't there, between you and you? Perhaps not you, sir, I hope. But isn't there conflict between you and your wife? Huh? That is, if there was no division, would there be conflict? No, obviously. So conflict arises always where there is a division. The poor and the rich, the communist and the non-communist, the Marxist and the capitalist, and so on, right? So where there is division, there must be conflict, is law. Right? It's a law. It's an eternal law. Agree? Where there is division of any kind, there must be struggle, conflict, problems. And we're going to find out, sir. You are saying that we cannot do without thought. Now, where are the limits of thought? You understand my question? That is, where do you draw the line? Thought has its place, right? Which is going to the office, speaking a language, driving a car, the whole world of technology. Thought is necessary, right? Now, where is thought not necessary? Find out, sir. Come together, let's find out. You understand my question, sir? Thought is necessary. Thought is necessary to go from here to your house, right? You take the road and car, all the rest of it. Now, and we also see that thought has created division. Where there is division, there must be conflict. That's a law. So, where do you draw the line? See, thought is necessary, right? And thought is not necessary. I wonder if you understand this. Is thought necessary? Just a minute, listen please, sir. Is thought necessary in relationship? Now you are stuck.
The physical needs create the division. My hunger, your hunger.
Hunger is hunger. No, it's not my food. No, sir. It's not your hunger or my hunger. It's hunger.
Yeah, it's a fight for food. Survival creates the division.
Which is what? Yes, and don't say you don't know. Let's look at it. Survival. I seek.
Fighting over food.
I understand, sir. I need food and you need food. Now, in India, there is overpopulation, multiplying every year by 10 million or more. You understand what's the danger of all this, sir? And governments is trying to solve the problem. I don't know if they are, but then perhaps you know better. Now, can they ever solve it? You want food and I want my food, right? Hunger is both, is your, to survive we must be fed. Now if the population is increasing every year by 15 million, I wonder if you realize what that means. Every year the population of Holland is added to this country. You understand? You understand, sir? Now how are you going to solve the problem? By being India, which means what? A global relationship, right? Would you agree to that? Global relationship, which means no nationalities, right? Right?
So my physical needs creates a division. I become self-centered.
Yes, sir. I'm saying that. Because your hunger, my hunger must be fed. And there are thousands of people in this unfortunate country not being fed, right? 1 meal a day or less than that. And how is this multiplying population going to be fed? Either India has great deal of rain, no failure of monsoons and so on. Even then it will not be enough, right? Therefore, logically, humanly, sanely, there must be no division between people, America and which means global interrelationship, right? And no governments want to do that because you elect them. Because you still feel you are an Indian, right? He still feels a Pakistani. This is all so simple, sir. Can you drop your nationalism?
So the government encourages nationalism.
So of course government encourages you to be nationalistic.
Competition between.
Yes, sir, I know all that. And you fall into the trap. And you like that. So let's come back. Do you see the fact, if I may ask, that where there is division between my wife and myself, there must be conflict. Huh? Right, sir? Now, how will you get over that conflict? Wait, sir, look at it carefully. I am married, I have a wife. She thinks one way, and I think another way. She wants babies, and I don't want babies. She wants to be popular, belonging to some select group, and I said, silly, I don't want that. You follow? There's constant division, right? Haven't you? Isn't it your problem, this? No? Gosh, I was ashamed. We don't even face this fact. Right. Now, how am I to get over this division? Which thought has created, you understand? Right? I am ambitious, I am greedy, I am envious, I want to become the executive or the chief foreman in the factory. And she has her ambitions and so on, right? So what shall I do? Both are created by thought, right? So what shall I do? Advise me, please. Huh? Huh? Drown my wife, how do you say? So just stick to one simple thing, sir. There is division between me and my wife. And that division must inevitably create conflict, right? How am I to get over this division? Huh? What? Compromise. Yeah, that's what all right, compromise. What am I compromising? Sir, are you being factual or just imagining? Yeah, how do I compromise with my wife? I don't want to go out at night to parties and all that. She does. Wait, sir, listen to this, sir. And what am I to compromise with? I don't want to go out at night to parties. I think parties are disgusting. Personally, I do. I don't want to go out. And my wife, who has been brought up differently, because her father is rich on all that nonsense, and she says, I want to go out. Where is the compromise? So she goes and I stay at home. You see? And you call that compromise? You're all rather funny, sir. Do look at it, please. Stick to one thing.
Then toleration?
Huh?
Toleration?
I tolerate.
Will understand the division.
What?
Understand the division.
What?
Understand the division.
What?
To understand the division, he says.
I'm going to explain, sir, if you'll kindly listen, but you don't even listen. You just go on with your own thoughts, with your own conclusions. You don't even listen to what the poor speaker has to say. There is a division between my wife and myself. It's like two railway lines never meeting, right, sir? Right, sir? Except in bed. Don't be ashamed of that word. Now, I realize, actually not theoretically, that where there is division, there must be conflict. Right? So what shall I do? I understand this. To me, that's a fact. So I'll give up my ambition, right? Right, sir? That's where your difficulty is. I'll give up my self-centered activity, right, sir? Just follow this for a minute. I give up my self-centered activity. You understand what that means? That is my ambition, my greed, my envy. I want to climb the ladder of success. I want to be the top dog. You follow? I say, that is the reason why there is division, right? Which is my selfishness, right, sir? And her selfishness. Agree to that? Agree, sir? So, division can only end if I give up my selfishness, right? My ambition, my greed, my position, my, right? Follow this? Suppose I give it up, right? I have, personally. I don't want to be ambitious. That's where your difficulty is. So, but she is ambitious. See the difficulty. I have given up all my self-centered activity. If I can, I have. And she has not, right? What's our relationship? Huh? What?
If she wants to kill somebody, you have to go along with her.
God, you haven't even listened to what I've said, sir. God, don't you think at all? You understand my position, sir? I realize division is caused by my self-centered activity. Self-centered activity is, I am greedy, I want to climb the ladder of success, I want to become a big man in a little pond, and so on, so on. And she also wants it, right? I see the danger of division. I see where there is division, there can be no love, right? So I say, all right, I give up my self-centered activity. I'll go to the office, but I'm not going to become a big man or a little man. I'll work, right? But you won't. And she is self-centered, satisfied. So what happens between us? Go on, sirs, think it out. What happens between us? I love her because where there is self-centeredness, there is no love. Would you agree? Would you agree, sir? Would you kindly answer me? Where there is division, there is no love. Where there is self-centeredness, there is no love. Where there is selfishness, there is no love. Right? I have love for her, and she, because she is selfish, has no love for me. She wants to go to parties, she wants to, all the rest of it. So what shall I do? Divorce? Separate? Go on, sir, think it's your problem, not mine. What?
Does my surrendering help? Surrendering.
To what? Go to nightclubs? What?
I become silent.
Oh, you are. You
Yourself, are you not surrendering to her?
certainly not.
That is what he's asking.
I'm not surrendering to her. I'm not surrendering to anybody, to your guru included. I'm not surrendering to anybody. Why should I surrender? What am I surrendering to? To my image of her? You people, right? So, sirs, please let us realize something very basic in all this. Where there is division, there must be conflict, right, sir? And you cannot get rid of this division by thinking about it, right? Because the division is created by thought. By thinking about it, I can't solve it.
Sir, can you solve the problem of hunger by thinking? I mean, when there is a
Yes, sir, I've thought about it.
pain in me,
Yes, sir.
I am automatically divided. Need not think about it.
No, sir. If there are a whole group of us, not just you and I, but a whole group of us, saying, look, nationalism is a disease, right? Nationalism divides people. Nationalism creates, one of the reasons for war is nationalism. Economic war, you follow all that. So I've thought about it, and you have thought about it. As long as there is a nationalistic division, there must be starvation, right? So the solution to that is no nationalism, right? A global relationship. Now, people, it's now becoming more and more strong nationalism, right? British, 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 French, you follow? So one has to show to all the people, logically, sanely, that nationalism is a disease. Then we might have food for all people. Right, sir?
Sir, in Russia there is no starvation.
Huh?
In Russia there is no starvation.
Oh.
They are having nationalistic. Then how it is possible?
And what are you talking about, sir? They are buying grain from all over the world. You people don't say don't. You see, you don't, sir, you always hold back to something, explain something else. Please, just give this one thought, think about this. That where there is division, there must be conflict. My wife and I quarrel, have rows every day. You understand what happens when I have a quarrel between my wife and every day? What's happening to me and to her? You're not even aware of it. What is happening to her? Us, sir? We are destroying each other, aren't we? Huh? No? Now, if you see the fact, not theories about it, not intellectual comprehension, it's a fact that where there is division, there must be destruction. Right? Destruction is all. Quarrels, rows, each wanting his way. Right? So what shall I do? Thought cannot solve this problem, right? Are you quite sure? Then what will you do? Thought is not the answer to our quarrels, to our divisions. Then what shall I do?
The difficulty is in myself dropping my selfishness.
Yes, sir.
It's very difficult to drop my selfishness. Don't I see it is a danger?
Do you see nationalism as a danger? Huh? Not somewhat, sir. Cancer is danger, isn't it? No, cancer. If I have cancer, I say, well, it's partly dangerous. Huh? I say nationalism is a cancer. It's cancerous. Right?
How is the family unit different from nationalism, sir? How is the
No, I'm going to, sir, you jump from one thing to another. You haven't given up your nationalism. You won't. I know you won't. But you have now turned to the family unit. What is a family unit? Me, my wife, or my wife and me, and my children, right? I educate them if I can, send them a good school if I can, and I'm concerned. As the world is now overpopulated, my son goes off to Bombay or to Delhi or to America, and my family is in some village or some town. The family is broken up, right? There is no family unit. Even in India, that's gradually being broken up. It has broken up in Europe and in America. And that's one of the calamities, you understand? Now you people don't even think about all this. Right, sir? So, is there another instrument which will solve this problem? You understand, sir? You understand my question? Thought has not solved it by yielding it to her or surrendering to her or she surrendering to me, which is a terrible thing, isn't it? Why should she surrender to me or I to her? When you surrender, you are still what you are. Right. So, what shall I do? Knowing that thought will not solve this problem. What shall I do?
end by me?
Huh?
End by me.
What?
I end by me.
End by me. You will
I
end
end
with
by
me.
me.
Now, how do you end the me?
By being aware.
Don't you just words, sir. Don't play with me, seriously. This is a serious talk. Don't just play with words. Are you aware of your selfish attitudes? Are you aware that your wife is selfish and you are selfish? Are you aware that your children are also selfish? And this selfishness is increased by becoming an engineer, a physicist. They may be marvelous physicists, great scientists, but their life is mediocre. No? No? So what shall I do?
Sir, even the awareness of change doesn't remove the division.
I'm going to show you something. So you don't. I know you are aware of the division, right, sir? And what havoc it is creating in the world. Agree? This is, sir, it is not an agreement. You have to feel this. You have to, it must be in your blood that wherever there is division, there must be conflict. That's a law, like gravity is a law, right?
Don't be a part of the division. Differentiate.
Huh?
Don't be a part of the division.
Don't be a part of the division.
You hear that statement, sir? Don't be part of division. You are just throwing words. You're not serious when you just say, drop your division. You can't. So just let's stick to it. We are divided, right? My name, my form, my desires, my reactions, my education has helped me to keep divided, right? And that division is creating great danger outwardly as war, and also with my wife and children. What shall I do? Pray to God? Run off? Abandon my wife? Or she runs away? What shall I do? Yes, sir. Don't go to sleep, please. Find out what to do. So I have to inquire something I have to inquire, haven't I? Right, sir? What does inquiry mean? To inquire into something, I must be free to inquire. There must be freedom to inquire, right? I mustn't say this is the way to solve it, this is the way to solve it, I must surrender, I must do this, right? I must be free from all that to inquire, right? Like a scientist, he is free to inquire. Right, sir? So are you free to inquire? Or in your inquiry there is a motive? You understand what I'm saying, sir? If there is a motive, that motive is going to dictate your inquiry. Right, sir? So can you inquire without a motive, without an end, just to have the capacity, the intelligence to inquire? You understand, sir? That is, I have a tremendous problem between me and my wife, which is the same problem in the world, you understand? This problem cannot be solved by thought. So what shall I do? I must find a new instrument which is not thought. Right, sir? Now, I have to inquire into it. I can't say, tell me what the new instrument. Right? I have to inquire. Right, sir? Now, to inquire, there must be freedom from my tradition, from my conclusion, from my opinions. Right? I can't say I'll stick to my opinion, my conclusion, my tradition, and inquire. That's not possible. You understand? It's like a boat in a harbor which has dropped its anchorage and says, I must sail. It must remove the anchor and then move. Right? Right, sir? The anchorage that you have dropped is your tradition, is your belief, is your condition, is your conclusions. Drop them. Otherwise you can't find the new. Right, sir? Right? Would you agree even logically to that? Can you drop your conclusion that there is God, there is no God, that this system is better than conclusion? Do you know what the meaning of that word conclusion means? To end all further discussion. I conclude you are great. And I stop there. But if I don't conclude, I have a freedom to inquire. You follow, sir? Most of us have conclusions. Right? Now, to inquire, I must drop my conclusion. Right? Which means what? The brain then is becoming free. Right, sir? Conclusion now is conditioning the brain, is limiting the activity of brain. Right, sir? So if I drop my conclusions about politics, about God, about anything, drop it. Then the brain becomes extraordinarily alive. Right? Right, sir? So that what? Look, some Indians are going abroad, aren't they? Here they feel there is no opportunity for them. They go abroad and do extraordinarily well. Extraordinarily well in the sense of having a great deal of money. Right? Right, sir? They are doing very well. Joining big companies, inventing new things. And here, they say there is no opportunity. I heard an Indian who is fairly well known on television in England. He was being interviewed. He said, the interviewer asked him, are you going back to India? He said, and the Indian said, no, there is no opportunity there. Right? Opportunity being more selfish advancement. Right, sir? More money. Yes, sir. So, will you give up your conclusion to investigate? Right, sir? Will you? To find out how to end this terrible destruction between me and my wife, between wife and me. You understand, sir? Can't we give up a conclusion to settle this? Huh? How tragic it all is, isn't it, sir? I can't give up a conclusion or several conclusions to end the battle between me and my wife. Right, sir? Which means what? We are so damn selfish. Right, sir? Unless you drop, understand naturally, logically, sanely, that any form of conclusion, the word conclusion means to end. I conclude a treaty. That means I conclude a marriage. I conclude that God exists. Then I can't inquire. If I keep on repeating, I believe in God, 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 it's just a repetitive conclusion. But if I really want to find out if there is God, then I have to drop my conclusion and inquire, which means I must be fearless to find out. Right, sir? What? Because why am I clinging to my conclusions? Because you think in conclusions there is safety, there is security. You don't know what will happen if you give up your conclusions, and therefore you are frightened, therefore you hold on to your conclusions. It's not how to break it. See the fact. I've got cancer. That's a fact. I don't say how to break it. It's a fact. So I go to the doctor. And the doctor says, my friend, come immediately, you have to be operated. And if he's a good doctor and you trust him and all the rest of it, I'm operated. I may die, but I'm operated. Right, sir? But I may die. And if I don't say, I may die, therefore I'm frightened, I don't get operated. But I stand with pain. Right, sir? It's all so logical. So I'm concerned to end my division quarrel with my wife. I'm concerned. I really want to end this division between me and my wife, between me and the world. You understand, all the rest of it. And for that I have to give up. I see I cannot conclude. If I do, there must be division. And quarrel will continue. That's all. If you like quarrels, if you like rows, endlessly till you die, it's your life. If you like to live that way, live that way. Don't talk about God and puja and do that kind of, that leads to hypocrisy. The rich man doing puja, right, sir? You see the cynicism of it? Right, sir? What? I didn't say that. Give up your conclusion once. No, but I don't want to include that selfishness is such a complex, subtle process. Take one thing, which is conclusion, and find out if you can end it. I conclude I must be something. And my poor wife doesn't want any conclusion. She wants to be treated kindly, gently, affectionately. My conclusion is preventing that. Right? Will you give up your conclusion? I know you won't say. You just nod your head, but you won't. No, I made it very clear. I made it very clear, sir, if you don't mind my repeating it. We are together investigating, together thinking, to find out a way of living in which there is no conflict. We are thinking together. I am not your guru. I am not your doctor. I don't want to be your doctor or your guru, perhaps because you aren't worth it, or you're not the right patient. So, sirs, to end division, you must have love. Right, sir? and you don't know what that word means in this country or in your... Right, sir?
It's selfishness. How can there be love, sir? What's that disease? What's that cancer?
Sir, did you hear what I said? I'll repeat it, sir, if you don't mind. Where there is division, there is no love. Right? Agree? Not agree, see the fact. See, sir? What? Qu'est-ce qu'il dit? What is?
There is no division, there cannot be love.
What?
If there is no division, there cannot be love. The opposite.
Sir, I have been listening what we have been talking about for an hour and nearly an hour and a half. Sir, apparently from this question of this morning, we have come to a certain point from which you can go further, which is where there is division, there cannot be the end of conflict, right? Conflict will continue as long as there is division between peoples, between nationalities, between people who are rich and poor. You follow, sir? As long as there is division, there must be conflict. And between my wife and me, there is conflict. And I want to end that conflict. Because I don't want to destroy her or destroy myself. Right, sir? The way we live is destroying us. So I want to end the conflict. And to inquire into how to end that conflict, I must be free from my conclusions. Just one conclusion, or half a dozen conclusions. End them, give it, so see the fact. Conclusions divide, you understand, sir? You have concluded that you are a Hindu. I have concluded that I am a Muslim, right? It's a conclusion. I hold to that conclusion, which means I won't think any more about it. So I'm a Muslim. I've concluded. You understand, sir? And you have concluded as an Indian. So can't you give up that conclusion? One conclusion. Can you? Because if you can't, I'm going to destroy her and she's going to destroy me. Right, sir? So I say, for God's sake, I'll give it up. That has no value. Right? Because my urge is to live peacefully with her, to have affection for her, not treat her like a breeding instrument, to treat her as a human being. That means I must consider her, I must care for her, I must look after her, I must have sympathy, affection, love for her. But all this is meaningless to you because you have never inquired into the nature of love. Right, sir? So we've answered the question that there is a new instrument which is not thought. We can go, I'll go into it much more. But You must leave your position to understand what the speaker is saying. Right, sir? Not always repeat the old, say, how to get inquiry means moving together. Right, sir? Will you do that? Because the world is in a tremendous danger, sir. Right? As long as I'm quarreling with my wife, I'll quarrel with the rest of the world. If there is no order in my house, I create disorder in the world. Right, sir?